Alrighty, ETM Hotep, which is welcome and peace. Reni Wujau Menib Edi Ma'at. My name is Wujau Menib Edi Ma'at, and you are tuned into the Seshu Ma'ani Metal Netcher channel, aka the Seshu channel. So welcome. Hopefully everyone is enjoying their Friday. It's Friday, beginning of the weekend. Hopefully everyone is staying safe out there, and you're relaxing. So I appreciate anyone who's tuned in at the moment, and I appreciate anyone who is checking out this video in the archives. So tonight I'm streaming live to give a lesson on translations and a lesson also on semantic relations. All right. Now, really, this is a continuation or a further elaboration on a video or a few videos that I've done in the past. As you can see, I did a video as a lesson on the mechanics of language 2 years ago. And there's quite a few before this, like all throughout our archives and our channel. I've been giving quick lessons on various different aspects of language in general, but more specifically dealing with the ancient Egyptian language, which is called Rani Kemet, and the writing system, we refer to it as Sesh Medew Netcher. So between Sesh Medew Netcher, the writing system, and the spoken language, which is Rani Kemet, there's a ton of videos in our archives speaking on and teaching quick lessons, snackables, what have you, on various different elements. And so I would suggest that people take time out to, peruse our archives. And we're in the process of going back through the archives to timestamp the videos in the description of the video so that you can, more so like a table of contents of the highlights of the video. Because we have so many videos covering different aspects of the language, we want to make it easier for you all to follow and, see a video of interest and a topic of interest that you can click on and find more convenient. Some of our videos are 2 hours long, and some of them are more than 2 hours long. So I know how it can get trying to look at a, 3 or 4 hour video. It's kind of discouraging a bit if you don't have the time, especially if you don't have the time. And the kind of videos that we do, you have to watch the video because there are things that are shared, diagrams, typing on the screen. There's interaction with the audience. So it's not something that you can click on and just listen to. Although, that's better than nothing. All right. So don't want to waste too much time. I want to go right into tonight's lesson. And again, shout out to everyone who's tuned in while I'm live streaming, and to those of you who will be watching in the archives. And as always, if you have any questions about anything that I present, explain, etc., feel free to leave comments under the videos or contact me by way of other social media channels in terms of Facebook. Facebook is fine. All right. And on Facebook, I'm under the same name, Wujao. All right. So I'm going to jump straight on in to the lesson for tonight. All right. So let me get my screen all ready to go. So as I said, this is, a further elaboration on previous videos. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to just combine some of the things that I previously explained. And I'm going to do it, try to simplify it as best I can within the context of the current conversations that are going on other YouTube channels and on Facebook related to the over 5-decade controversial topic of blackness in ancient Egypt and all of its iterations, all of its other subtopics that it spawned. All right. So I'm going to do my best to kind of consolidate a few things within this video. All right, so I hope you're all ready. Make sure you have your pen and pad ready, or on your computer if you're a person to type your notes. Open up a separate tab, open up your other application, and we're about to get it in. All right. All right, so first things first. If you all don't know already, we have a scribal institution, and it's the home of the aspiring scribes of divine words, which is the Sesh Medew Netcher. In case you don't know, now you know. We also have a website, seshmedenetcher.com, and our goal is to make it a one-stop shop for all things in terms of resources for Sesh Medew Netcher and Ronnie Kemet. Also, Sabre University is an educational environment, aspiring to be a full-on educational environment in terms of learning, minus the all the different elements that are detrimental to the learning process. All right. Also, these are a few books that you all should have by now, and if you don't, shame on you. And if you do, really appreciate and look forward to any commentary or questions you may have after reading any of these books. The first book on the left is a textbook for beginners level Sesh Medew Netcher classes. So, but it's designed to where you can teach yourself at your own pace as well. All right. Second book is Rebuttal to claims that was made by Walter Williams concerning the decipherment of the ancient Egyptian writing system, and we refuted all of his claims out of his book. All right. We didn't take his statements that were made on videos. We actually took his points that he wrote, put in writing. And this is what I encourage and advocate people to do, is to write. Put your arguments, articulate your arguments, and fully lay them out in writing, so that it could be addressed, agreed upon, disagreed, and so on and so forth in writing. That's the best way to do it. Everything is consolidated in one spot. So if you want to know about the decipherment process and the claims that Professor Walter Williams made and our rebuttals, that's the book for you in the middle. The third book, the blue one, is Simplified Sesh Medew Netcher Penmanship. It's a lesson on in Egyptian hieroglyphic writing, the monoliteral glyphs. It teaches you step by step on how to actually write them. All right. It's done by Sonet Emiket Aku Kinshai Akinyi. And this particular book are for those of you who want to take it a step further and learn how to actually write in Sesh Medew Netcher. All right. Or even if you don't want to write it, because you may not have anybody to write to in a language, but to brush up on your skills in that area. The white book on the bottom is a book that's not published. The book that you see is an actual proof copy of preliminary copy, my copy of the grammar book that I am currently working on. It's Ancient Egyptian Orthography and Grammar, a synchronic descriptive grammar of the older speech of Kemet. It deals with Sesh Medew Netcher, with writing system, as well as Ronnie Kemet, the Egyptian language. All right, so that will be coming out forthcoming, and I'm still in the process of working on that book. This book is going to supersede the first book that you see on the screen, the yellow one, the beginner's book. It's going to have beginner's level, intermediate, advanced, you name it. Everything is going to be in the book. So people at different levels will be able to use the same textbook for their as a resource. All right, for classes. The bigger book on the right-hand side is a contribution to the debate on the meaning of the place name Kemet by the Shemsu Heru research team. That includes myself, Asar Motep, and the brother Sanjeti. Now, it is this book and this particular topic, which is the environment in which I am doing this live stream tonight, that I'm about to get into. All right. The topic of the meaning of the place name Kemet has been, recently brought back up after 2 years of being kind of in the background. and time passed by and now it's resurfaced, and a lot of people dealing with that 3 years ago, 2 years ago, have rehashed older arguments as if the arguments never took place and were never refuted and things of that nature. So earlier today I posted several videos, I believe 13 videos related to the topic coming from our archives that are 2 to 3 years old, just to remind people and to create easier links so people can get to them and watch them, that we dealt with different arguments from various different people that are on different sides of the argument. And a lot of the things we've already dealt with before. Myself personally, I've dealt with many of them. Okay, so I'll put that list of those links in the description of this video afterwards. All right, so what I'm going to get into, like I said, translation and semantic relations. These are important tools when dealing with the topic or question of the meaning of the place name Kemet. Now understand, when we say meaning, we're saying semantics. All right, semantics is the study of meaning. All right, and in order to get to the meaning of a word, you have to use other aspects of language as well. And this is a image that the brother Asar Imhotep had shared in a few of his videos. So I took a shot of it to share tonight. And this is the continuum companion to historical linguistics. And in here, the pertinent part is the requirements in order to deal with etymology, because that's what we're going after, the etymology of a particular word, in this case the toponym Kemet, and what all is involved in it. All right, so we have phonology, morphology, semantics, pragmatics, philology, culture, and historical developments. All right, so in order to be proficient and skillful at these determinations, at discerning the meanings of words in question in your research, you have to be thoroughly studied or proficient or competent in these areas of linguistics and extra linguistic areas, such as phonology, morphology, semantics, pragmatics, philology, culture, and the historical developments. So also from Asar Imhotep's, a few of his presentations, he listed 6 focal areas of etymology. And you see them on the screen. One is phonology, which is the sound inventory of any given language. You see the word phone in there, study of sounds. Morphology, semantics, pragmatics, 4, philology, 5, culture, and 6, history. All right, so to cover some of these is what I'm going to get into tonight in terms of translation. What is translation? In my experience over the years of dealing with this topic and other issues, I find that many people have a misunderstanding of what translation is, okay? And also what words actually are. Although we use words every day, 24 hours, every day, all day, we take for granted that we really don't know what a word actually is. And it's not until you're questioned or someone is questioned about the different elements of words that this realization comes to the fore. All right, that we realize, wait a minute, what exactly is a word? All right, so I went over that in previous videos, as I said, but tonight we're going to start off, and I'm going to try my best to consolidate a few things so that people will have the tools and to follow the conversation on the meaning of the place name Kemet. All right, so everything I'm explaining is to provide tools in order for you all, the audience, listeners, people who are following the conversation, to actually understand the arguments and understand what is being said. All right. So let's dive in. First, we're going to start with the basics of communication, which is the successful sharing or making concepts common. That is what communication is. The goal of language is to transmit meaning from one person to another or many others. Concepts or meaning must be clothed in a form, which is sound or writing, in order to be transmitted. All right. So, in other words, as human beings, we're not telepathic creatures, animals. We're not telepathic. We have concepts within our individual minds, and in order to communicate those concepts outside of ourselves to another person or others, we have to clothe the concept or meaning into a form and then transmit that form to the next person. Okay? Very simple to understand. Now, when we do this, what we're actually using are signs, but we call them words in everyday vernacular. We say words. We use words to communicate, but they're really signs, and I'm going to explain why. So what is a sign? A sign is a unit of 3 elements. All right. You have form, you have meaning, and then you have the link between the two. Now, depending on how this is explained, some people don't count the link as an element. They will say a sign consists of 2 sides, like a coin. That's why I have these hands here on 2 sides of the coin, like heads and tails. But I have a third side here floating in the air, representing the link between the two. All right. So all 3 of these, without separation, is a sign. So on the form side, which is also called the signifier, the form is the sound pattern that you hear. So it involves our ears and it involves sound. Or it could be the written pattern that you see. So it involves our eyes and something that is written, visible. All right. And all writing instruments of all the varieties. All right. That's the form. Now, also, we have what's called the meaning, which is the signified, which is the concept. And the very word concept means to grasp in the mind, to hold something in the mind. All right. And we know the mind is an abstraction. So these concepts are abstractions within an abstraction. All right. Until it's given form. All right. And so the form, which is the sound pattern or the written pattern, and the concepts, when they're stitched together or linked together, it forms a sign. That's why I have these 3 elements here. All right. So that should be very clear. Hopefully that's very clear. All right. Like I said, I'm going to keep this very simple. Moving on. So how do we successfully communicate? So a simple breakdown of successful communication looks like what I have on the screen. So we have person A and we have person B. So person A encodes meaning, which are the concepts that are in their psyche, their mind, into a form, be it verbal or written. All right. Then what they do is they transmit that concept that's linked to that meaning over to person B. Person B receives it from person A by either hearing it or seeing it to read. And then that person B has to decode the form in order to extract its meaning. Now, in order for us to successfully do this, the only way, the absolute only way that we can successfully do it is if person A and person B share the same set of signs in their respective minds. Okay? If they don't share the same signs in their respective minds, they're not going to be able to successfully communicate. They won't be able to understand one another. All right? That should be easy to follow. So here's some examples. Now, let me back up a bit. When I first spoke about signs, what a sign is, when we say a specific language, let's say English, let's say Spanish, let's say French, let's say Swahili, etc., etc. When we label languages with these terms, what we're really labeling is a set of signs. So every language on the planet is a set of signs that people share and utilize. Those people who share and utilize the same set of signs, that is to say, a language, is referred to as a speech community. Okay? If you don't share the same set of signs with your fellow brothers and sisters around you, then you're not part of their speech community. Thus, you will not be able to communicate with them, and they will not be able to communicate with you. Okay, so again, what we're calling a language is really a set of signs that are utilized within the minds of a group of people, which we call a speech community. All right, so let's go over some examples. So as you see here, I'm saying that a language is a system of signs. Now here's an example of an English sign, a sign in the English language. So for the form, we have the sound, which you see the slanted, the forward slashes. That's indicative of phones or phonemes, all right, which is sound. So when you, in case you're wondering where this looks familiar at, is when you go into dictionaries, most dictionaries will have the IPA sound notation for the particular words, the entries. That's telling you how to pronounce the words. And it's utilized the International Phonetic Alphabet, which is IPA, which was created by the International Phonetic Association, which is also abbreviated IPA. All right, so IPA for the association, IPA for the alphabet. And they created a set of symbols to represent all of the sounds in human languages. Okay? Now, so the way that this form is pronounced is elephant. Elephant. The example below it is how it is spelled. So we have the pronunciation and we have the way it's written. All right. Now, this form is linked to a meaning or concept. The concept or the conceptualization that you as an individual have in your mind is a large animal, big ears, a snout, ivory tusk, weighs a ton, and whatever other descriptions that we could give to this particular concept here. So this is what you conceive in your mind. If you want to discuss it or communicate that to someone else, you have to give this conceptualization a form. And in English, this concept is linked to this form. And we say it as elephant, and we spell it ELEPHANT. All right? This should be simple enough. Easy to follow. This is a sign. Now, this is an example of an English sign. So let's look at some other examples. Switching over. Now we have an example of a Swahili sign. Now we have the same conceptualization, the same exact conceptualization, representing the meaning. Okay, this large gray animal, big ears, ivory tusk, etc. But now it's linked to a different form. The form that it's linked to is pronounced ndovu. Ndovu. It is spelled Ndovu. So this concept is glued or linked to this form. And the concept, the link, and this form all together represents a sign in the Kiswahili or Swahili language. All right? Ndovu. All right? Easy enough. Let's continue. Same concept or meaning, large gray animal, large ears, snout, ivory tusk, etc. Same thing. But now the concept is linked to a different form. It's pronounced liech. Liech. And it's spelled Liech. This concept being glued or linked to this form is a Doluo sign. All right? It is a sign in the Doluo language of the Luo people. All right? Liech. To continue. Now we have, I'm showing all three of these examples as one. So I want you to notice that we have the same exact concept in all three instances. But what is linked to on the form side are different. So we have elephant, we have ndovu, and we have liech. Now, what does this have to do with translations? By now, you should see how everything that I just explained gives way to what translations actually are when we say translation. All right? Now, what is translation? The short and skinny of it is that translation is the communication of meaning. And remember what I said at the beginning. When we say meaning, we're talking about semantics. So translation is the communication of the meaning of a source language text or speech by means of an equivalent target language text or speech. Translations depend on knowledge of two or more languages, which are two systems of signs. All right, you have to have knowledge about two or more languages in order to be a successful translator. So what is the act or the phenomenon of translation? So what this should tell you, first of all, is that translation is a semantic endeavor. It is a semantic endeavor. It deals with meaning. It is the transporting of a source meaning into a target from a meaning from a source language, into a target language. That's why we say trans. Trans means to move. All right. So you're moving meaning from a source set of signs into a target set of signs that we call language. So as you can see, we have Duluo, Swahili, and English sets of signs, aka languages. Duluo language, Swahili language, English language. Now in Duluo, we have the word liech. Swahili, we have the word ndovu. In English, we have elephant. So what we can actually say is that coming from English, which will be the source language, and Swahili being the target language, we can say that elephant translates to ndovu in Swahili. We can also say that elephant in English translates to liech in Duluo. But why and how can we say that? Well, the answer is what I've already showed you. So again, translation is actually the matching of the concept side, the meaning side. Remember I said translation is a semantic endeavor. Semantic is meaning. So you're focused on the meaning side, but you're trying to match forms in various languages, which are themselves a set of signs. All right. So hopefully this is becoming more clear if it wasn't already, and if it is, that's all good. That's great. Okay. So we say this is a translation. So again, translation is a matching process. There is a science and art to translations. And the reason why I say science and art is because the science part of it deals with the surgical details of these different linguistic elements. The art part of it, or the crafty part of it, is making decisions on the restrictiveness of translations, because you have different types of translation. You have literal, you have figurative, mechanical, and so on and so forth, which goes a bit beyond the scope of the lesson that I'm into tonight. All right, we're dealing with translation in general. All right, so to keep moving forward, when you translate something, you also have to understand other elements dealing with languages. And we have a natural occurrence in pretty much all languages on the planet, which is referred to as homonyms. All right? Or homophony or homography. Both homophony and homography are homonyms. They are either homophones or homographs. All right. As an example, in case you need to be refreshed on those things, I have an example here below. So we have the form, a word form, L-E-F-T, left. We have another word form, also L-E-F-T, left. We spell it exactly alike, which will make it a homograph, and we pronounce it exactly alike, which will make it a homophone. But they have two different meanings. The first one is the past tense. On the meaning side, it's the past tense of leave. The verb leave. It's the past tense of that verb. The second one is the opposite of a direction called right. The second one is a direction, left, turn left. All right. So they have different meanings, but the exact same graphs. Same graphs is the word homographs. Homo meaning same, graph meaning that which is written. And they sound the same. Homo meaning same, phones meaning sound. All right. So left and left. Now, if I were to just give you the word left all by itself on an island all by itself, you would not know which of these words I am referring to or I intend to use. The only way you'll know is by what's called context. All right. So this word will be considered a lexical homonym. And I'm going to get into that in a few minutes. I'm going to go more into that. But this is just to give you all an example. All right. Now, this is important for the endeavor of translations. All right. And you're going to see why more and more as we go forward. So now we have now this first example I gave you is an example of homonymy within a single language. So both of these are English signs. Okay. These are two separate signs in the English language that are semantically related by way of homonymy. All right. All right. So let's just be clear on that. Now, what we also have that exist are multilingual homonymy. And what I mean by that, for example, we have these are Deluo signs. Okay. We have the concept of send being linked to the form or in the Deluo language. Now that sounds like an English word, because English, we have that sound, that same form in English, but it doesn't mean send. The English or is a disjunction, this or that. But in Deluo, that same form has a completely different meaning. It's a totally different word. It's a different sign in a different language, but they sound the same. So these will be cross-linguistic or cross-language homophones. And many of these exist. What's a curse word in English? And a word that, you're not supposed to say. We teach children not to curse and use foul language, vulgar language, and whatnot in English. Those exact same forms of those words may be perfectly fine to utter or to say and pronounce in other languages. Okay? And there's a lot of that in the world, among the different languages in the world. So the next one is sin. Sin in Luo language means sadness, or sadness is linked to sin. Mountain is linked to goat or got. We would say got. Now, all three of these forms are familiar to us in English, but not these exact meanings, because it's not the same sign at all. So, for example, if you were to see a Deluo sentence written out, and you see the word or in the Luo language written down, you cannot translate that or to the same meaning as we have for our or in English. Likewise with sin. If you see the word sin written down anywhere in a Luo context, we cannot translate that as bad or evil or missing the mark and the definitions we have for our word sin. Same thing with the word got. Got is the same as have, to possess something. I got it. I have it. But in Luo, it's a mountain. It's totally different. So you cannot translate based on seeing the form. And I hope you all are following that. You can't perform lookership in order to have successful translations. Now you're going to see, now remember, everything I'm explaining now, right now, please pay attention to it. Take notes if you have to. Watch this video a few times, because these are key elements to understand the conversation about the meaning of the place name Kemet and what people are doing with the conversation. All right. So I repeat, you cannot do lookership and just see a consonant cluster such as OR juxtaposed against one another and immediately say it means a disjunction like we have in English. That's not the case. Same thing with SIN, same thing with GOT. Now, to kind of compound and elaborate on this, here's a Deluo sentence. All right. Now, in English, if we were to see this same phrase, I should say, it's not a sentence, it's a phrase. In Deluo, it's a sentence. In English, this would be a phrase. This phrase says, anyone mature. That's like someone starting their sentence. Anyone mature can attend the party or can attend the meeting. anyone mature can attend the meeting. So this, if we were to look at it and use strictly lookership, we would assume and think that this is saying anyone mature. But in Duoluo, it is nothing of the sort. What this phrase or this form actually is linked to is I have stepped on and broken him or it. That's the meaning that's connected to this phrase. I have stepped on or broken him or it. All right? Totally different. So what am I showing? Quick review. These are cross-language homophones. Things that have similar sounds across languages, but don't mean anything like each other. All right? And we have to be aware of all of this when we are performing translations successfully. All right? So I hope everyone's following that. And by the way, I forgot to mention that while I'm going over this, I am not paying attention to the chat at all. So I appreciate anyone who is tuned in, listening. And hopefully you bear with me. And if you have questions, save it for when I'm finished. All right? I will do a Q&A after I'm finished. All right? Now, just to kind of give you a teaser, I will be going over the riparian or riparian conversation and topic. I will be going over that. I'm going over this first as a prerequisite to that conversation. I'm going to have a separate conversation on Kemet being the riparian country or the riparian land. All right? So I will be going over that. All right, so let's continue. And by the way, my pronunciation of anyone mature is not how it's pronounced in the Luo language. So technically, to correct myself, and pardon me, this would technically be a homograph. There would be more on the homograph side and not on the homophone side. Because homographically, it looks like our English pronunciation, anyone mature. But if you listen to a Luo speaker, they're not going to pronounce it like anyone mature. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that that was correct, and we're being precise as possible. Okay, so now having gone through everything I went through, hopefully everyone understands what's going on here. Now I want to move to semantic relations. All right, remember the word semantic. The word semantic means meaning. So we're going to discuss briefly relationships in meaning, how words are related in terms of meaning. What is the meaning relationship between words? And so we have three main ones that I'm going to discuss tonight briefly, which is homophony versus polysemy. You know, and I used to pronounce that all the time, polysemy. And I've heard people say it polysemy, but the correct pronunciation is polysemy. And it depends on kind of where you are, because I know people in the UK pronounce it a bit different as well. So you have synonymy as the third one. So homophony, polysemy, and synonymy. All right. Those are the three that we're going to dive into briefly. Okay. Discuss just enough so you'll understand and be able to follow the conversation. All right. So let's dive in. So the first one is homophony. So first of all, let's start with what does homophony mean? I kind of mentioned it already, but to break it down, and I need to have my arrow on the screen. To break it down, homophony is broken down into homo, which means same, phone, which means sound, and the Y suffix or ending is a state of something. And so what it boils down to is homophony are words that sound the same. Simple enough. Two words are homophones if they have identical pronunciation. All right. But they also have to be unrelated. Okay. That's why I have this in parentheses. All right. So don't forget that part either. So again, two or more words or are homophones if they have identical pronunciation, because deal with sound. So an example, we have tail and we have tail. The first one, now these are homophones. They sound identical. They're identical, but they have different meaning. The first one is means a story about exciting imaginary events. And I can give plenty of examples of exciting imaginary events that are tails. Then we have tail as the part that sticks out at the back of an animal's body and that it can move. All right. These are homophones. Simple enough. And we learned this in grade school. So this should serve as a refresher for you. All right. So I'm going to try to be brief. Now, dealing with homophony, when we go back diachronically through history, through time, we go backwards in time, words that are synchronically or presently homophones may have originally started out not as homophones. So what you're seeing on the screen now is the diachronic development of a homophone, where two words may have started out sounding different, but it's through the natural and organic changes in a language's phonology that will put pressure on the words to make them sound the same. Okay? So for example, if we go back to tail and tail, these two words, although they sound exactly alike today, back in time, they may have had different pronunciations. This may have been, the second one may have been sound like tile. But now if we say tile, tile, it sounds like the word T-I-L-E, tile, like kitchen tile, bathroom tile. You know, and so homophony is something that naturally exists within languages. Okay, so let's just have that understanding. And it's a reason why. So let's go back to this. And I don't know what happened to my trusty arrow here. So homophones that exist today may have started sounding different, but again, through the natural and organic changes in the phonology of a language, it puts, oh, I see my actual cursors over here. I left it over here. It actually puts pressure to make it come out and sound the same over time. It takes time. This is language evolution. All right, the evolution of language and phonology. All right. Now, and there's a reason why that happens, and I'm gonna get into that. So let's keep it moving. Also, when dealing with homophony, we have a limited number of sounds in any given language, which is considered its phonological inventory. Okay, so for example, English has a certain set of sounds that are available to us. Arabic, for example, has a certain set of sounds that are available to it. The phonological inventory of Arabic and the phonological inventory of English overlap. We share a lot of sounds, but then there are sounds that we don't share. The Arabic ayn and ghayn and kha, etc. Those sounds do not exist in the English inventory. That's why it's hard for us English speakers to pronounce certain Arabic words. And we, comedians even jokingly, act like they're clearing their throat. Hakane, 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 That's the running joke when it comes to the phonological differences between the languages. But coming back to this, in homophony, we have a limited number of sounds in a particular language, but we have an unlimited number of things to talk about. So the ratio is limit to unlimited, limited to unlimited. So this is the reason why there's a natural tendency of human beings in speech communities to have homophones existing in their languages. Because language itself is supposed to be economic and efficient. This is why languages change over time on the level of word or lexical level and on the level of sound. So you have sound changes in a language, but you also have on a level of word changes in a language as well. Okay? And it's for this reason, because we have unlimited things to talk about, experience of life and the universe and everything that we don't know and everything like that. But we have a limited amount of sounds. So there's going to be some overlapping and doubling up, to put it to you short. All right. So hopefully everybody got that. Let's continue. Now, because on the subject of homophony, because language, get my cursor over here, because language sounds are limited, we're talking about form. So the forms are limited, but on the meaning side, it's unlimited. We have an unlimited amount of things that we could talk about, new discoveries, new experiences, but we have a limited amount of sounds. So the ratio from form to meaning is not balanced. And because of that is why we have what's called homophony. All right. So homophony seems to be a good way to economize on linguistic form. Why? Because we use the same sounds to refer to two or more things. So you can see how it's economic, right? You're saving. You're making it easier. It's efficient. So for all of these reasons that I just mentioned is why homophony exists within languages. All right. Hopefully you all understand that. Now, if this was a classroom environment, some of the things that I say, I would stop and I would make sure that everyone who is in the class understands, and I would question and ask questions of the class and get participation. All right. And this is why I say YouTube, it serves its purpose, but it's not the best tool to use as an educational environment. Okay. So what I would encourage you to do is go on over to sableuniversity.com and register to the website. It's free. And we're going to be adding these short lessons, full-on courses, more and more as time goes on. All right. Just wanted to plug that for y'all. All right. Let's keep it moving. Now, okay, so to further elaborate on homophony, we're still at homophony, all right? So remember, it's same sound, words that sound the same. But now, so here's an example. Because homophony can be confusing. And that confusion is described in one word. And we're going to get to that, but I'm going to flash it for you. That word is ambiguity. Okay? We're going to get to it. Let's stick here for a second. So the potential confusion with the existence of homophony is reconciled because the most of the homophones that we do have in any given language, they exist in different syntactic categories, which means that they will hold different places within a syntactic unit or a sentence. So for example, we have a homophonic pair of words, bear and bear. They're not only homophones, but they're also homographs. All right. And one is a noun and the other one is a verb. Now, the noun can take a plural ending in number. It can be declined for number, the grammatical category of number. And in this case, the S added, it becomes plural. The verb can change its form to represent past tense, past participle, or to agree with the subject that's in the singular. All right. Now, the only reason and the only way that we can tell these two apart is by context. If somebody were just to say the word bear all by itself, you wouldn't know. Context gives birth to meaning. So context contextualizes clues, or has contextual clues that create a picture around the word. Now, let's pause for a second here. For those of you who actually study Sesh, Medew, Netcher, that statement right there should sound a little familiar to you. Contextual clues that create a picture around the word. In Sesh, Medew, Netcher, we have something that is called determinatives that are used as classifiers or semantemes that help give contextual clues that create a picture around the word. But except in Sesh, Medew, Netcher, they are actually pictures. All right, let that marinate for a minute. Now, the picture does what? It clarifies the meaning. All right. So this is how we can tell it apart. All right, let's keep it going. Now we're getting to ambiguity. Now, ambiguity occurs when there is more than one meaning involved and the context does not make it clear what meaning is being referred to. All right, so we have two major types of ambiguity. We have what's called structural ambiguity, that's due to syntax. And then we have lexical ambiguity, which is due to the word itself. Okay. Now, what we're discussing is lexical ambiguity, not structural. All right. So actually, let me bold that one. This is the one we're dealing with. Lexical ambiguity on the level of word. Now, here's an example. So if we ask ourselves, are homophones ambiguous? And the answer is yes. And here's why. Or they can be. Not all the time. They can be. Now, this will be considered a example of lexical ambiguity. All right. I found the table fascinating. Now, the word table could mean a piece of furniture, or it could be the word table that's referring to a grid of figures, like an Excel spreadsheet, a table, the periodic table of elements. If you were to read this sentence all by itself, you would not know which of these was intended, thus making this word table ambiguous, lexically ambiguous. All right? So I hope you all are following that. You won't know. You need more context around this sentence in order to figure it out. Okay? All right, so let's keep it moving. Hopefully everybody understands that. Now we're going to get to something that people find, I in my experience, people find confusing. So hopefully I will do a good enough job to unconfuse it and to make it straightforward and simple. And this, we're going to go to polysemy. All right, first let's start with, what does polysemy mean? It breaks down as poly, which means more than one. I'm sure people are familiar with that, with polytheism, etc., etc. Then the word sim, which is the word for meaning, which is where we get semantics, which means meaning. And then we have the Y ending, which is the state. So polysemy, or the polysemous, or polysemous word is a word with more than one meaning. All right? That's what this breaks down to. To elaborate, two words are polysemous if they are different senses of the same word, but the two words have to be related. Okay? Just as a quick review, when I spoke on homonyms, these are two words as well. They have different meaning as well, but they're unrelated. So that's the key difference between homophony and polysemy. Again, that's the key difference between homophony and polysemy, and this is what confuses a lot of people. All right, so we're gonna keep it simple. That's the difference. Just understand related versus unrelated. So again, two words are polysemous if they are different senses of the same word. So let's take this word table. So we have table that has one sense, an article of furniture consisting of a flat slab-like top supported on one or more legs or other supports. That's one sense of the word table. Then we also have another sense of the word table, an arrangement of words, numbers, or signs, or combinations of them as in parallel columns to exhibit a set of facts or relations in a definite, compact, and comprehensive form, a synopsis or scheme. Okay? So table is polysemous or polysemous. All right? So there's two different senses of the same word, two or more. Okay, you have, if you look in a dictionary, they'll have a lot of senses of different words. Okay? All right. So hopefully that is clear. Hopefully that much is clear. Let's go back. So again, when we talk about bear, again, to kind of drive the point home, or the difference between homophony and polysemy, we have the noun bear and the verb bear. The noun bear is a large, strong animal with thick fur that eats flesh, fruits, and insects. The verb bear is to bravely accept or deal with a painful, difficult, or upsetting situation. All right. Now, these are completely different words. They're not related. So there would be an example of homophony and not polysemy. All right. So hopefully that is understood. So to double down on an example, in polysemy, we have the word plain, Plain, plain. We have one sense that it means clear. Sense number two, it means unadorned, no trimming. Three, we have a sense obvious. As an example, we have something that's clear is in plain English. It's clear. It's clear. Unadorned means a plain wooden table. There's nothing on the table. No decoration, no design, no nothing. A plain wooden table. Then we have something that's obvious in plain sight. But like, hey, I'm looking for my keys. Man, it's right there in plain sight. Which means it is obvious. That's an example of polysemy. All right. Just kind of reinforcing what's been going on. All right, let's keep it going. Now, let's compare polysemy and homophony. So polysemy again is it is the same word, but there are different senses of the same word. Whereas with homophony, there are two or more words. The words are not related. In polysemy, the words are related, because that's why we say same word. Homophony, the words are not related, and they are different words with different meanings. Okay? Next, we're going to move on to synonymy. Synonymy. To break down the word synonymy, syn means together, onym means word, and y is state, suffix. And it simply means when two or more words share meaning. All right? So here's an example. Let's take the English word happy. If you look up in a thesaurus, all the synonyms for the word happy, this is going to be your results. Cheerful, contented, delighted, ecstatic, elated, glad, joyful, joyous, jubilant, lively, merry, overjoyed, peaceful, pleasant, pleased, satisfied, thrilled, upbeat, blessed, blessed, blissful, blithe, can't complain, captivated, chipper, chirpy, content, convivial, exultant, flying high, gay, gleeful, gratified, etc., etc. I'm not going to read them all. But these are all synonyms for the word happy. All right. Now, we're kind of familiar with synonyms. But now, just keep in mind that everything I'm going over is required to comprehend and understand and be competent in when we are dealing with translations. Okay? Like I said, this is all prerequisite information I'm sharing, and I'm trying to, condense it into this these explanations I'm giving now. All right, so let's keep it moving. Now, if we were to compare all three of these things, homophony, polysemy, and synonymy together, all right, this is what we'll have. We could see some similarities and the differences. If we compare synonymy with homophony, we can note that in both cases, the words are not related lexically. They're not related. That's what these two phenomena have in common. The words are not related. But comparing polysemy and homophony, what they have in common is that multiple meanings are involved. But when it comes to polysemy, the words are related, but in homophony, the words are not related. All right? That's just to give you some comparisons between the two, just so you can drill in what these things actually are. All right? So, here's a question that we can ask. Can synonyms be used interchangeably in all contexts? That's a question a lot of people ask, in my experience. And the answer is no. No. Here's an example. if we were to swap the synonyms, okay? So in this same sentence, I've never felt happier in my life. Next sentence, I've never felt contented in my life. You see how there's a problem already. Third one, I've never felt laughing in my life. They totally missed the mark in terms of conveying the same meaning. These three sentences do not convey the same thing. Even though those three words are synonymous with each other on their own. They're synonyms of the word happy. Okay? So the answer is no. We cannot use synonyms interchangeably in all contexts. But there are instances where we can. There's instances where we can't. So we have to keep that in mind. So again, remember reason why the purpose of me doing this is that everything I'm saying is giving you the tools to understand how to translate, what is involved when it comes to translations. All right. For some reason, and I understand why, people think dictionaries are translationaries, and they're not. Again, people believe, they're under this false belief that dictionaries are translationaries, and they are not. Dictionaries are very useful tools to be used for certain things. But many people, especially on the conversation that in the context of the meaning of the place name Kemet, et cetera, they're misusing the tool of a dictionary or dictionaries, not knowing or being competent in the things that I'm explaining right now, which is why I'm doing this. All right, so let's go over in summary. With synonymy, synonymy seems to counter polysemy and homophony. So remember, when I discuss homophony and polysemy, they are natural organic occurrences. Why? Because language is supposed to be economic and efficient. Economic and efficient. We're not going to have a strict, unique word and sound for everything that we can imagine that we could talk about. No language is going to do that. And I can make the same arguments and demonstrate on the side of writing systems. Okay? On the side of writing systems, where you're not going to have a pure logographic writing system. That's insane. But that's for whole another topic, a whole another discussion. So, synonymy seems to counter polysemy and homophony, which seem to be mechanisms of economizing, on linguistic forms, right? And that's very true. Next, if polysemy is economical and efficient, and language is supposed to be economical and efficient, why do we even have synonymy? Why? The answer is synonyms are in practice related, but they're not identical in meaning. And they cannot be used interchangeably, as I just shown. Okay? Last, synonymy marks different styles of, so what's the purpose of it then? The answer is synonymy marks different styles in speech, which will be different periods in history, social classes, and context, etc. So, in other words, synonyms come about as a reflection in different styles of speech, different periods in history, different social classes within a speech community, and in different contexts. Okay. Now, if we dive further into this last statement, into linguistics, the brother Sarimotep just did a video on a crash course on comparative linguistics. And he mentioned a phenomenon in answering someone's question about Coptic and why it's not wise to use, when you do these comparisons, to use words that are in close proximity to one another. And you want to use the oldest forms of words, and you want to use languages that are distant, spatially distant, to eliminate borrowing and eliminate synonymy. Okay, because in a language you have what's called reflexes in a language where you have internal borrowing. Now, said another way, it would be related to synonymy. Okay, it reflects different periods in history. Two words that share the same meaning that will reflect different periods in history, etc., etc., etc. All right. So, with all of that being said, everything I said should at least bring you up to speed with enough of the surface amount of tools to follow the conversation a little better when we talk about the meaning of the place name Kemet. Okay, and as I said, I'm doing a separate video, not tonight, but I'm doing a separate video as a continuation of everything I just explained to discuss Kemet being the riparian country or the riparian land. All right. In the context of the conversation. So that is something you all can look out for and, keep your fingers on the pulse. All right. Keep your feet on the ground and you all will be notified when I have that discussion. Okay. But I want everybody to marinate on everything I said because this is a very important. Everything I just mentioned is very important to this conversation. Everything that Asari Motep went over earlier today is very important to the conversation. So watch this video again. Go back and watch Asari Motep's video again if you saw it, or watch it for the first time if you didn't. Watch the two videos. And so when I continue this conversation about Kemet being the riparian country or the riparian land, you will follow the conversation better. You'll be able to filter out the noise. You'll be able to filter out the goofy, filter out the drama, and filter out all the other nonsense and things that have been going on for years. All right. We're going to keep it scholastic. We're going to move forward and we're going to actually learn something if you haven't done so already. All right. So with that, I am going to look at the chat and let me see, what image should I freeze this on? I will leave it on this image here for now. All right. So having said all of that, let me pay attention to the chat now. So if you had any questions, previous questions, or you need to get my attention and everything like that, I want you to repeat it. And I'm going to stick around for a few minutes to see if anybody had any questions. So I'm going to go through it rapid fire style. So go for it. Time is ticking. And again, I appreciate anybody who's hanging out. And because I take it, anybody who's watching me live right now and have endured everything I said, I appreciate it a whole lot because I am filtering out people who are serious, who seriously want to learn, not people who will troll channels and come on people's channels while they're explaining one topic, but then ask other topic questions, or try to incite and bait people. All right. That's all fun and games, but there's a time and place for those fun and games. All right. And so when you see a pattern of people doing it all the time, then, at some point you got to kind of just brush it off and wash your hands of it. All right. So I really appreciate anybody who's endured and hung out with me. So again, any questions? I'm just talking until I see some questions up here. So I do see some people. I can scroll backwards and give a shout out to a few people. And I'm sure that today's Friday. There's probably other live streams going on. And I definitely understand what's attractive to a lot of people. But I'm for quality over quantity. I'm trying to push things forward. And this is what we're going to continue to do. Anyhow, that Calfani. We got ATL Superstar Show. Kent Logan, Asar Motep, Donnie Williams, Marlon, Omar Reed, Sheffrin, Elantu L. Everything is Everything. MF Dread Son. Monica Lamb, Afro Ninja. I'm just giving shout outs because I don't see any questions yet. Now, either I explain that stuff very, very well and nobody has questions, or what I explain hit you like a ton of bricks and you all are passed out. It shouldn't. Ramza, we have Ramza. All right, so listen, if there are no questions, I will definitely end the video. But I'm going to wait a while because I know there's a lag a bit. And see if there's any questions. Now, see, like I said, if this was a classroom, actually class environment, there would be no awkward silence. I don't like awkward silence, but best believe I will be asking questions. I'll be doing pop quizzes, verbal pop quizzes all the time. So we had Brother Ramza made a comment. Wujao, some Christians got that Yiddish and or Arabic tongue sometimes. Heavy. It's their spirit trying to get to the tongue, etc. They worshiping gibberish most times, but ghosts can understand. Okay. I don't see any questions. All right, well, 5 minutes. Any questions? Anybody want to hop on the panel? If not, I'll keep this short. Got 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Keep it an hour and a half or under. If not, that is fine. So let me do a quick review. Quick review. So when it comes to translations, remember, translation is a semantic endeavor. When dealing with semantics, anything, you have to understand semantic relationships. And I went over the three main ones: homophony, polysemy, and synonymy. All right? You have to understand this. That's number one. Number two, well, it's not in any particular order. You also have to understand what a word is and how translations can even happen. Like, how is it possible that we can even translate at all? I've given you enough to answer that question. and we've answered it earlier. Also, you have to ask yourself, what are dictionaries? What's the purpose of a dictionary? A bilingual one. Now, let's pause there for a second. As English speakers, when we look into Merriam-Webster Dictionary or Oxford Dictionary or dictionaries of the English language, I want you to check the difference in how that dictionary is versus, let's say, an ancient Egyptian dictionary. Okay? When you pull up an English dictionary has taken under considerations the things that I've explained tonight. Some of the things that I've explained tonight. But when you're dealing with a bilingual dictionary, where you see one language and another language side by side, the same consideration is not made. So, for instance, in the English dictionary, when you look up a word, it actually explains the meaning. It gives, it's not just simply word substitution. It explains it. It elaborates. And it gives multiple senses. It considers homophony. It considers synonymy. It considers polysemy. That's why they have multiple senses of the same word. You look up one word, it'll have one entry, one lexical entry, but it'll have like 10 senses listed under it. And they usually order the senses in the order of what's most popularly used. Which one is more popularly used based on statistics. But now, when it comes to a bilingual dictionary, for instance, English and ancient Egyptian, such as the Mark Vigus dictionary that people use, or Budge's dictionary that people use, etc., or even the online database, the TLA database that people use, you don't see that same consideration. And that has to be taken into consideration, which is why I say dictionaries are not translationaries. They're not. Those dictionaries are not translationaries. So you don't know what's polysemous versus what would be a homophone, a homograph, or any of those considerations. And so what people tend to do, and this will be the last thing I say, what people tend to do on the subject of riparian land, and this is by recent questions people ask me, they say, Brother Wujau, show me in the Egyptian dictionary where Kemet means riparian country. And so, unbeknown to them asking me that question, what they're asking is to show them where the form Kemet was swapped for the form riparian. And what that tells me, and which is why and what inspired me to do this video tonight, again, because like I said, this is a continuation of older videos, or more a review is a better way of putting it, of older videos from March 2020, one in particular. So, instead of trying to identify and match concepts, people are focused on the form. And remember what I said earlier, focusing on form is lookership. And I showed you all the mistake of doing that. the two characters O and R. In English, that's a disjunction, this or that. But in the Luo, or means to send something. Send something. So if I went strictly on lookership, I'm wrong. So that's part of the problem. And people are not taking the time, for whatever the reason is, not taking the time to consider all of the above. And I'm being brief tonight. There's more to this, but I'm being brief on some of the elements that I've gone over before. And this is enough to get you to follow the conversation. And so remember, my next conversation will take what I explained tonight, and we're going to visit the conversation on Kemet being the riparian land, the riparian country. All right. And after I have that discussion, anybody who questions it, then to you be yours and to me be mine. It's going to be just like that, plain and simple. All right. So with that, and there's no questions, I'm going to say Shem Imhotep, Gadeh Nefir, which is good night, and Shem Imhotep. Hope you all leave satisfied and full. All right. So remember, if you think of questions after the fact, or if you're watching this in the archives, feel free to leave a comment on the video. And make sure you thumb up the video. All right. Thumb up all the videos. But thumb up the video. And leave a comment. All right. It don't even have to be a question. You can leave a comment. What'd you think about the information? Maybe you go research something and come back. You be like, oh, okay. Hey, I checked this out. I checked that out. All right. All right. So I'm going to say Shem Imhotep. And I will see you all next time.